Kailangan nating talunin tong pandemic na to.
Kailangan lumaban na kailangan may gawin.
I'm not going to be part of that 40% that will not survive, and that's it.
There's still a drop of life, then I'm gonna hold on to that and I'm gonna keep it alive.
Even just buying one mask na 35 pesos, it's like we dance for joy.
Kung nag-umpisa ka na, sana may bumili ng tinda ko, parang back to basic ako.
Doon mo ma-feel na, okay, may pag-asa pala.
For the sake of the Filipinos, we just have to give it a fight, di ba?
Pwede pang
Good afternoon. It is exactly 12:06. Good afternoon, everyone. It's another beautiful Wednesday morning. Hello, Betty. Mom, Betty.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
Yeah. Good lunch to all, to both of you, and everybody.
We haven't. I'm hungry. Start not.
Yeah, actually, I haven't eaten anything, so I'll definitely eat something after.
Okay.
Anyway, it's now. Yeah, we're back here at your Wednesday lunchtime habit. Good habit, of course. Our revolution, the health revolution. And today we'll be talking about, well, it's there, isolation in pandemic times. So kind of scary, but it's not really that scary. We're just so concerned about, the prolonged lockdown, that you might be in isolation for so long. So we're here to tell you, well, it's okay, especially Paul will do a presentation. And of course, we have, as announced in our IG and in our other social media platforms, we have no less than Miss Aya De Leon, partner singer-songwriter, to share her, her take and her, her version of isolation. So, good afternoon, and Betty.
Yeah, hello. Hello to everybody, to our listeners, our revolutionaries. I think Paul is with us today to talk about isolation, a topic which Paul has been, how would you call this? Has been propagating that I think isolation not be bad, right? So Paul, why don't you give our audience here a brief background on what your organization is espousing?
Yeah, so me and my wife have this organization called Safe and Sound for Mental Health. And what we do is before the pandemic, we would have events and awareness events, and we would talk about different symptoms like depression, anxiety, and maybe different illnesses, help people be aware. And then we also do peer-to-peer counseling. People can sign up on our website, and then we can talk to them, once a week or every other week. It's just to be there for people. And then right now, what we more focus on is we do like a support group for teenagers every week. We have about 20 kids, and so there's about 2 support groups, 10 each, and so we just we just process through information like during this pandemic time, and we talk about a lot of different subjects, and we just help kids have a healthy mindset about stuff, which is important, and then to be aware of the unhealthy stuff too, and it's just a safe place for people to be able to talk about stuff, and we think it's important. No matter what's in your mind, even if it's the most darkest thing in the world, it's very important to talk about it and get it out in a safe environment. It's very healthy. So yeah, so that's what we're about.
Yeah,
Right.
that's
So,
actually a very good advocacy, because I think a lot of our young people now have unrealized problem of loneliness, isolation. So what got you into this organization? Why did you start this organization?
Good. This is a good question. I like. Thanks for asking me that. But why I got into it is, so I actually have some of my own issues, and I'm not shy to say this, that I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and I was in the treatment of either being diagnosed with bipolar 2 or borderline personality disorder. And I've also had several major depressive episodes. So there's a lot of symptoms and a lot of things that I understand and I can relate to. So, long story short, I've been through a lot in my life. I've been through suicidal attempts. I've been through very, very much lows in my life. And, I personally have a relationship with God. And so my relationship with God, I felt like God was telling me, not verbally, but I felt like in my heart that God was telling me that He wanted me, the very thing I struggle with, that it can be used for good. So one day it just kind of hit me that, hey, I can do something about this. When we're in our darkest moments, we have a few choices. We can sure be dark, and we can go to really bad places. But we also have a choice to do something positive with it. So
Yes. It's always okay. I always say it's always okay to be not okay, right? Because we always have our episodes. Life is not full. It's not a bed of roses. We have our share of problems. But I think the important thing is for us to be able to cope with it, to solve and to resolve it. And I think because if you have I like talking to people who have first-hand experiences on this kind of problem, because it takes one to be able to address the issue better, right? Because I can always have a theory about something, but like you, I think you would be one of the best persons to consult if ever if people ever have any issues with this kind of a problem, right? And and fortunately, I'm happy to hear that you have an organization like this. So so you help people. So how do you go about with the support group? That should be, since it's pandemic, so you do it through or something.
No, we meet up on Starbucks. No, I'm just kidding. Joke long. No, we meet on Zoom every week. So every Fridays we meet on Zoom.
Virtual meeting.
So they come from different places.
So they come from this after-school program actually called Abutala, and so they have a lot of like different classes and stuff for the kids. So they just kind of added Safe and Sound to one of their classes that the kids can take.
So it's like a collaboration with school.
Yeah, I guess you can say that. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well,
All
that
right.
makes for more success, more chances of success.
Well, it also teaches me a lot too. It,
Mm-hmm.
every week,
Yeah.
it's a good thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some
And
people do not
it,
realize it, but with our experiences like this, even like me, I said that life is a continuous learning process. Every people we meet, we are able to learn something from them, right? So
yeah,
that's
true.
make
Exactly.
that makes life interesting.
Right, it's
Yeah.
very
Mhm.
true.
So right
So
now, so if
yes,
how do
good.
you think, do you have how can people contact you, or how do they go about joining your group, or
Yeah, so
and
they can
also
go on. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
oh sorry, and I was just going because before it slipped my mind, and I was
Mhm.
also going to ask if you will be doing something digital about your programs.
We have stuff on Instagram. You can find us on Safe
Facebook, we
and
have a
Sound
Facebook.
FMH. And then same thing on our Facebook, Safe and Sound FMH.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for FMH stands for mental health. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
um, on our Facebook page, there's like a sign up sheet. Like if you want to be a part of like a support group or just need someone to talk to, you can
Mhm.
sign up there, and then we'll just go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
So we
Okay.
will we will share the screen later. Okay, so I think now it's 12:15 and we have to start with the presentation of Paul about this this isolation thing that's been starting to become a big
sure,
problem in other
yeah,
mental health issues. So can I share the screen now?
yeah, go for it. So isolation, how does it affect us, and how to cope healthily? Isolation and loneliness. Actually, kind of funny here. I misspelled the word loneliness, so I didn't add the e, so it would have been loneliness. So
No.
thanks, Betty, for pointing that out. So yeah, you can go next slide.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Next slide. Okay,
loneliness
next slide.
without the E would be a good spelling. it it means you are not alone.
True. Well, people are not alone. I mean,
Yeah.
least at least they can talk to people on the internet.
Mhm. And
So are
sometimes
we
there's
going to the
something
next
good out
slide?
of being alone, right?
Yeah,
I
there is
remember
positive.
remember one time I went to this Transfiguration Monastery in Malaybalay. I don't know if you know about that place in Bukidnon. There's one day that they will tell you be quiet to just choose any spot in the whole place, and then you just quietly think and converse with God. So I
Hmm.
think that's a nice exercise. If you haven't tried it, maybe you should.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds great.
Uh-huh. Okay. So our slide is okay.
Now here we go.
Yes, yeah.
All right, so I'll go in a little bit by myself.
Isolation.
So
Okay.
I'm the founder of Safe and Sound, or wait, there we go. So I'm Paul Rohrer. I'm the founder of Safe and Sound for Mental Health. I'm from Tennessee, USA. I consider myself a good old country boy. I like the outdoors. I like fishing. I grew up hunting, all that stuff. I just like taking walks outside in the woods, which I really miss that.
Mhm.
I love my wife and sports and food and learning new things. And just uh, I'll share just a few minutes of just to talk a little bit about loneliness. That's the subject today. My little background is that I shared before I have PTSD. I have a lot of symptoms I deal with, and so there's been plenty of times in my life where I feel lonely, and I think it's very, Betty says this a lot too, but I think it's very important to define how you feel lonely. And for me, I can be in a group of 1,000 people and still feel alone. And there's always, I think nowadays, especially before the pandemic, it's so hard to make friends. It's almost like people, it's almost like people don't value that as much anymore. But this is my perspective. So you could be sitting there and you could have totally different perspective and say, oh, well, I disagree with you. My experience has been this and this and this. But this has just been my personal experience. So, I've had to come to grip with what's true about how I feel. There is truth that there's friends. It's hard to find friendships. But also I need to be grateful for the people I have in my life. Whoever is in like my family, my wife, my mom and my dad, my brothers, other friends that I have, it might not be a lot, but, learning to be grateful for what we have. And then during this time of the pandemic, it's very important. I think we're all learning how important human connection is, how important people are. So, I think after this time, we don't know. This is an uncertainty time, so we don't know what's going to happen. But I think whenever this starts to get better, I think a lot of us are going to start realizing how important friendships are and people are. So anyway, next slide. So I think firstly, we're going to talk about isolation and loneliness. It's always better to define what we're talking about, right? So even if it's simple words you already know, sometimes even with simple words, some definitions will actually tell you stuff you didn't know. So anyway, so isolation obviously is the experience of being separated from others. And then we have the word loneliness, which comes from the word lone, being by yourself. So it's being without company. And then another word for loneliness is lonesome. So it's sad from being alone. So, it's accurate to say that loneliness can be sort of especially lonesome can be a symptom of isolation. But also, sure, it can come from isolation, but it also can come from maybe personally you just feel alone a lot, regardless if it's the pandemic or not. So it's just depends on the person. So next slide. So there's this BBC, so loneliness before the pandemic. So BBC did a loneliness experiment about 2 years ago, 2018, and then they interviewed about 55,000 people online. And so out of those 55,000, between the ages of 16 and 24, 40% of those people said they felt alone. And then if you see in the middle, like the average is about 33% average of everybody. If you notice, 75 plus is 27%, but that's not necessarily accurate because this was online. So you can accurately assume that there's probably a lot of older people who are not online. So I would think that 27% in reality is actually higher. So this 33% now this is before the pandemic. So you could definitely say it's a lot worse than 33% now. So next slide.
Actually, I think the older people, I think you wouldn't also have an accurate number. It's because a lot of them have dementia. So yeah, but it's interesting to note that a lot of the young people have a lot of the young people feel isolated.
Yeah, that's very true. So this is isolation during the pandemic. So approximately 80% of the population is isolated as of April 2020. So this was still some time ago, so you could definitely say it's a lot worse than 80%. If you notice, the United States 84%, but now in the United States, the pandemic has gotten way worse. So you could definitely say it's worse than that. And it doesn't say on here, but Vietnam is at 89%. So it's probably better to compare yourself to another Asian country, right? So, yeah. Next slide. So I would like to read this quote first. And this pandemic is a disaster of uncertainty, and the greater the uncertainty surrounding disaster, the greater the psychological casualties. This comes from George Everly. He is a professor at John Hopkins University. If you notice, just FYI, I have references on the. I got this from Forbes, so you can see that at the lower right corner. So the contributing, it's interesting. He said the greater the psychological casualties. I mean, it's definitely something that quote's definitely something to ponder. When we're uncertain about things, we're anxious, we're depressed, we're so many things. It's just so many contributing factors, and that's what we're going to talk about, contributing factors to our mental health. So the first, there's more than 5, I'm sure, but this is just good to start with. So contributing factors to our mental stress. So the first is significant job loss, and this is more on a global scale. It's different. We're talking about on a personal scale. We're talking more on a global scale. So job loss, and this is an American statistic. So 70% of all Americans, compared with 46% in 2019. So 70% of all Americans have experienced job loss, compared to just 46% in 2019. And then the unemployment rate, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, says it's 23.1 million people are unemployed in America. This is according to April 2020, so you can only assume it's worse. And then, given the Philippine perspective, I couldn't find any stats, but I'm sure it's really bad here too. We could only assume.
Yeah. But I think the Filipinos are more resilient because, it came as a text joke, but I think it's really true that Filipinos, a lot of them had converted themselves into they would sell anything that they can, they'll be able to put their hands on, like they can cook and then they sell. So actually, a lot of my sales have done that during the pandemic when we were on lockdown. So they would cook and then they would sell to their neighbors or things like that. So they survive, and maybe that's how Filipinos are.
I think it's very important to say that, right? And Philippines has a history of fighting. Actually, like the martial art, like Cali. In the 1500s. The Filipino warriors fought off the Spanish the first time the Spanish came here. So there's actually really a history of resilience here in the Philippines. It's
Survivors.
Survivors, yeah.
Survivors. Yes.
Important to recognize that. So, and then our second is the government response, which I'm not going to get into government talk. That's not why I'm here. I think we can, that's pretty self-explanatory, right? So you see it, you can tell people's stresses by online. We kind of have that advantage nowadays. So online, you're getting a lot of people with that are complaining about the government and about the president and about a lot of certain things, which I'm personally not going to get involved in that. But yeah, that definitely will. People are dealing with personal issues, and then they're dealing with job loss. They're dealing with the government response. They're anxious. They don't know how things are going to get better. They don't think their own government's doing a good job. So it's just a lot of pressure for people. So then number 3, the rise and display of clinical anxiety and depression. So this is an interesting stat. 1/3, this is also an American statistic. 1/3 of Americans have displayed clinical signs of anxiety and depression. 1/3. So
I think that it will be lower probably for the Philippines. Yeah, for Filipinos, because Filipinos, they can just sing and dance the time away. So as you said, we're more resilient, right? So yeah, maybe
Not to
1/8?
hear this.
Yeah, we don't know. But, it's also important to recognize that that's also, how the culture of America would deal with stress is probably different than a Filipino would. So just because somebody here is happy doesn't mean that they're actually happy, right? So there's also that perspective as well. So it's always good to be aware. Just because of one of our friends is really happy all the time doesn't mean that they're good. Like my personal experience, and I'm talking personal experience, there's times where I seem so happy and I have so much energy and I'm off the walls, but actually that's negative. I'm not normally like that. So when I'm like that, it's actually kind of a warning sign. That's how I'm coping. So
Sometimes people put up a false front, They will appear they're happy, but deep inside they're crying.
yes, true. Very true. So number 4, not comfortable discussing mental health issues. So I got a stat, and this is about employees in America. So I didn't find a stat people in general, but this is employees in America. So only 50% of employees in America are comfortable discussing mental health issues. So 50% actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Betty, 50% actually in the Philippines is high, right? I mean, like, coming from that perspective, it's like, 50%, that's actually pretty high. In American perspective, because we're more out, we're vocal about things, 50% may be low.
But I think probably it will be more or less the same here. Because Filipinos, they also do not like discussing mental health issues because it's you will be ostracized.
You'll be mocked. You'll be mocked.
Yeah. Right. So in that aspect, I think probably it's the same as the Americas.
Yeah.
Even for not even mental health issues, sometimes for ordinary health issues, some people just want to keep them, keep their problems to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Well, it's but personally, I believe that you can tell people about your problem, except that you just ask the experts. That's why it's good to ask people who know, because you cannot just go asking anybody, any friend you know. Because if more people will give you different advices, then I think you end up with, not being able to come up with a solution.
Well, you end up freezing. You don't know how to problem solve anymore. You're just dealing with so much in your head. So
it becomes more complicated and you are confused.
Yeah. I was reading an article, and this was on Forbes, and the article was really saying how important it is for businesses to come up with ideas to better support their employees, because so many of their employees are really going through stuff mentally, and so it'd be really good for businesses to come up with unique ideas to be making sure these employees are being supported, and then also not judged if they come out with struggling with these issues. So I think overall it's important to just have that attitude of, we're just here to support you. We don't judge you. It's understandable why you would be feeling this way. It's a very natural response to something like this. So moving on.
For business, I think it has to be a two-way process wherein the employers will be more understanding of their employees. But in the same manner, the employee should also be able to appreciate what the employer does for them. It's a time wherein both sides have to make the most of everything so that we can all survive. Because, especially for business, we do not know, because of, you never know, probably by year end, you might just be closing shop because of all the problems that will come in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but if both the employer and employee, they help each other out, I think we have a pretty good picture of what the future will be.
Yeah. It's just kind of like a safety net. I mean, if they come out and tell their businesses that they're struggling, at least the businesses can have some kind of plan on what to do. I think that's always important. So anyway, moving on. Number 5. 1 in 5 people have physical reactions when thinking about the pandemic. So physical reactions meaning they have a stomach ache, they have a headache.
Psychosomatic illnesses, we call them.
Yeah, Miss Betty, you're the one that definitely know about this stuff. So is there anything you want to add to that, Miss Betty?
Well, no, I think it's true that people have physical reactions, but then there's always two ways of resolving it, because if there is a physical manifestation, then the doctors would always want to prescribe a medicine, right? Because it helps also. I always say that, because for me, like I'm in the wellness industry, I always say that I would still depend on the doctor first and then we supplement. But then it's at the end of the day, it's still up to you to solve it, to find the root cause. Now, if you find out that, like for example, acidic, if you find out that your acidic stomach is caused by stress, then you can lessen the problem by removing or minimizing the stress. It's all about the mental health. Actually, it's what the mind thinks. Remember we always say it's mind over matter. So always in any illness, the first thing we have to discuss is really how the mind will adapt. How the very first thing is the mindset thing. The person should think that I can get well. So, but if you always think that you cannot get well, then it's a vicious cycle that the more you think about it, the more you don't get well. But that's the very first thing. Not even for mental, even for regular other illnesses, the first thing is mindset. So I'm happy you're discussing this, because the mind really is very, very powerful.
Yeah, and it's interesting you mentioned the stomach, because there are studies that having good stomach health can be linked to mental health, and having bad stomach health can be linked to like depression and anxiety and stuff. So that's important to have that understanding. So maybe sometimes we just treat it symptom by symptom. If we're feeling sad and we also are having acidic problems, then we deal with that stomach problem and then see how our health is. And if we're still having the same problems, then we just go step by step.
Yes, yeah. You can do some there are diagnostic tools anyway to find out if there's really a physical problem behind what you are feeling.
It also could be thyroid problems too, right? Thyroid problems can be linked to depression as well. So it's not always a simple thing, right? I mean, these problems we're talking about are actually pretty complex. So
well, the medical field has defined a mental illness as a disease. Unlike before, they would say, "Oh, it's just psychological," but now they have found out that I don't know if it's the effect or it's the cause, but they have found out that people who are depressive have low serotonin levels. So that can be tested, the serotonin level. So the mind is really something very complex. So we are still in the initial stages of studying the mind.
It is actually very interesting, because even thousands of years of existence, it's proven that doctors still don't know a lot about the mind, right? They're still learning about the mind. So
that's correct.
That's pretty interesting.
But still, I think you have some suggestions on what to do if people have these mental problems.
Yeah, that's towards the end. So anyway, we'll move to the next slide.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I just wanted to share this. So there's this poker player. His name's Rich Alati. He's not very famous. It's hard to find him on on YouTube. But he's a poker player that bet $100,000 that he could survive 30 days in total darkness. So I found that very interesting. So he had all the resources he needed. He had a refrigerator, he had a bathtub, he had food, he had everything he needed. And within day 3, he was already hallucinating. And the reason why you start hallucinating is because the brain is a very social brain, and it's a learning brain, and it always needs to learn things. Like if you notice in your everyday life, you're always doing something, right? You're always thinking about doing something. Even if you're lazy, you're still doing something. You're probably watching Netflix because your brain is interested, you know. So without that, they call it stimulation. Without that stimulation in your head, then no stimulation, there's nothing to talk about, then you're left in your own thoughts. So the brain is so bored, and it's actually interesting that the level of boredom is actually like, it goes boredom, and then it goes, I saw this, it goes boredom, and it goes disgust, and then it goes loathing. So after you feel boredom, you can feel a level of disgust. So you can be so bored that it's painful. And there's a very interesting thing I found out. You know, I was watching this YouTube video about this experiment. And so what they did is they had this electric button. They had these people come in, and they didn't know it was an experiment. And they had this electric button, and they said, okay, push this button. So these people pushed the button, and of course it shocked them. So this one person said, oh, this really sucks. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm never doing this again. So anyway, they put that same person in a room alone for 30 minutes with that button. So he was, within 5 minutes, he was already touching the button. He said he would never touch it again. So it's very interesting that at times we're so bored, we actually rather feel pain than deal with our boredom. So you can only imagine what this guy was going through. You know, how depressed he got, how lonely he was, how paranoid he got. The brain will start making things up. It just wants to find stuff interesting, so it starts making things up. And he said he saw like bubbles in the room, and he saw the stars in the sky. And that was just the brain's way of giving him something interesting. So anyway, he ended up losing the bet, and he left within 20 days. He quit 20 days. It's amazing it lasted 20 days. He lost $64,200. We just think 10 more days. I mean, of course, he has no conception of time, doesn't know what time it is. He has actually, it's proven when people are put in rooms like this that they think it's a lot shorter than it actually is, or they think it's a lot longer than it actually is. They have no way of telling time. They totally they're just so confused. Their brain starts playing tricks on them. So anyway, so let's move on to the next slide.
I think, let's take, are we going to finish up the two? Yeah, maybe the best would be, let's finish up the 2 slides, then let's take a gap. Then when we come back, we'll be having Aya in the...
Okay. Yeah, I can finish those pretty fast.
Okay, so... Okay. Is it? Oh yeah, this is the next slide, right?
All right. So how does isolation affect your mental health? So you're less able to deal with stressful situations. You know, you get caught up in these emotions, and then you freeze, and then you don't know how to think. The normal things you can normally do. 2, you're more likely to feel depressed. So yeah, you're more likely to feel depressed. And then number 3, you may have problems processing info. It's really similar. You know, you're dealing with stressful situations, you feel depressed, and then when you're dealing with these emotions, it's hard to be able to decision make. It's hard to find the reality about your situation. So that's why it's also important you have people you can talk to and professionals you can go to, people that can help you, deal with these thoughts and stuff in your brain. So number 4 may have problems with decision making and memory, which if you notice 3 and 4, it's almost like 4 comes right after 3. So you're having problems processing info, and then after that, you may have problems with decision making and memory. And then number 5 makes you more susceptible to illness. So according to the research I found, researchers found that a lonely person, and this comes from a sciencealert.com. So researchers found that a lonely person's immune systems respond differently to fighting viruses, making them unlikely to fighting an illness. So that's very interesting. And then number 6, it disrupts sleep patterns. Doctors, right, Miss Betty, call it the circadian rhythm, right? That's a very fancy word for our 24-hour cycle. So disruption to our circadian rhythm can also make us feel depressed and fatigued. This also has been linked to increased cancer risk, insulin resistance, and heart disease, as well as other physical problems such as obesity and premature aging. So I think it's normal right now during this pandemic that you actually find a lot of people who have messed up sleeping patterns, right? I mean, they're all over the place. They're sleeping during the day, staying up at nighttime. So that's very normal to be going through that right now. And you're also getting less sunlight, which I'll dive into that later. So number 7, you get increased levels in anxiety, panic attacks, and hallucinations in severe cases. So usually with hallucinations, you only get hallucinations if you don't have stimulus, if you don't have anything that's stimulating, you don't have any books to read, or if you're totally alone, all by yourself, nothing to do, then that's hallucinations can be normal in that setting. But in our setting, I wouldn't think it would be very normal. So anyway, let's move on. So here we go. How to cope with isolation and loneliness. And these are just brief descriptions. You can always add to it. So of course you need human connection. Very important. Actually, people found, and these are extreme cases of being isolated, but I found people who are travelers who end up all alone, in Amazon or in Africa, wherever they are. They say that the worst part about it is not the place itself. It's not starving. It's not a lot of things. It's actually the human connection that they miss the most. So that's very interesting. So anyway, with that said, it's very important that we have some sort of human connection. I know all we have is internet and stuff, but and like I was sharing earlier, I have a group that I do with teenagers every week, and they've said that it's helped them just having people they can talk to every week. So you can do that in your own life. If you have a set of friends, you can come up with an idea to talk to them once every Thursday, once every Friday, or whatever. And you definitely can see differences just in that. And there's a lot of unique ideas, which we can talk about that in the group conversation for the sake of time. So find something. Number 2 is find something to ground your emotions. So that can be like journaling, that can be meditation, that can be things like prayer, whatever belief systems you're into. Self-awareness exercises, like mindfulness exercises, music. Some people like video games. It's just make sure that what you're doing, you're not sad, you're not angry. It just levels out your emotions. So like for me, I have to be careful with video games. I'm not playing something I'm going to lose, and I'm just going to get more angry. So we also need to be aware of what we're doing. So it's different for everybody. Some people, like for me, I like taking walks. That can help me be grounded. I know in Manila that can be hard to do. So we kind of in our own way find out with creative ideas that give us peace. Like some people art can be a really good idea, even if you're not good at it. Abstract painting is good for people who don't know how to do art. Just put in colors however you feel, and touch it and feel it and observe it and stuff like that. So, and then number 3, find something that gives you purpose. Like for me, the fact that I get to talk to people and I get to help them process through things and be a friend to them and help them through this journey, I think it's been very important for me. So it's important to find your own purpose. So then number 4, get sunlight. Sunlight's very important. There's 2 of the key mechanisms for sleep regulation: the hormone melatonin and the brain's. It's a big word. I'm not trying to say that. Both rely on light function. So if you don't have light function, you can naturally feel depressed. You can feel anxious. So even if it's 20, 30 minutes a day. And then number 6, have a proper understanding of your personal mental state. Like I said, there's a lot of different reasons why you could be struggling. It can be different for everyone. So that's just kind of your own journey to talk to somebody and kind of figure out what you're going through and not judge yourself and be understanding to your circumstance, what you're going through. So, and then number 7 is have positive outlets for your negative thoughts and emotions. You know, like I said before, when things get really dark, I don't care how dark it is, you know, just to be real, even if you're thinking about violent thoughts and really, really bad, dark thoughts, it's very important that you have an outlet you can talk to about that, a safe outlet. So it's very important that you're getting this stuff out. So yeah, anyway, I'll end with that.
Yeah, anyway, there's a lot we would like to add, right?
Yeah, I know. For the sake of time, I like to interrupt. So.
No, it's okay, bro. It's okay. No problem about
It's
that.
good.
We will just have to take a break muna. Then we'll be back. We can talk about diet, exercise, because you know we're up to our goal is to be a holistic approach. So you know we have already found out that you know the mind and the physical, they go together. You cannot be healthy. You cannot have a healthy body without a healthy mind. So, and of course, our guest also said that she's fine to have an overtime. We'll just take a break, just to you know have a quick drink of water. So and hold on, I'll just play this quick commercial break. We'll be back. Go away.
Anak, anong gusto mong juice? Ang gusto ko, veggie juice kasi... Gusto juice, gusto ng lahat. Ang veggie juice na papasigla ng katawan. Nasa gusto na ang lahat. May gulay na, may prutas pa. Ito na ang sustansya. Vitamin ay kumpleto. Ikaw ma, gusto mo? Uminom na ng isang baso ng sustansya. Kompletong sigla para sa ating pamilya. Gusto Veggie Juice, your yummy veggie drink. No approved therapeutic claims.
This is just a quick break. Were you able to drink water? Are you going to include ayano or just have to finish up first? This, the tips muna before we bring in our special guest. So
well, anyway, kasi I just got interested in what Paul was talking about. First, about the sleep.
Okay.
The sleep patterns. Yeah, because he was talking about the circadian rhythm. From an alternative point of view, we believe also in the biorhythmic clock of our own physical body, because we are born at different times. So as you can see, some people can make it in a call center while some people will fall sick. So, well, God is good. He created us to different ways to so that we will survive the 24 hours. So, but that's for another discussion. But as I've said, there is a way to us. But that is also very important, because people who do not sleep will always end up having a mental problem, right? And then talking about food, uh, well, exercise, of course, is it's a given that you have to exercise. Although they say that you shouldn't be exercising 3 hours before you sleep. More, you should exercise more than 3 hours before you sleep, because otherwise you will also end up feeling, stimulated, that you will not be able to sleep. And then talking about food during isolation, this is I like food. I like to eat. I like seafood. When I see food, I eat. So I remember in my younger days, I would love munching on those potato chips. So, like for example, when we're studying, and I also noticed that in my employees, it like when it's afternoon time, they would be munching on something. But then, well, maybe because we want to get over the stress in the brain. Because, like, if we are working the whole day, then it stresses our brain, right? Because we have used a lot of our brain, the brain fluids or brain sugar. We depend on our comfort food. If we're going into isolation, you would like to our comfort food. We feel happy, right? But then there's a way to have healthy comfort food, and I think like people can have chocolates, because chocolates make you calm. It calms you down. Do you know that when there's a meeting, like there's a board meeting, and then you feel that people will be quarreling, or you put a lot of chocolates on the table so that people will come down. And then I think nuts is also good. It's also good healthy food. Although for people like us we have some problems with our teeth, we might not be able to eat a lot of nuts. And then of course, the way to be healthy is to try to look for low carb food, because unless you have used the brains too much that you need carb to think, the energy to think, then low carb food would be better. So I think it also helps in reducing the loneliness or isolation that you feel. And but
Fish can be
what you
important,
can do,
right? Right
huh?
now, like fish is really important, right? I mean, fish
Yeah,
can be very good in vitamin D as
fish.
well.
Yeah, fish is a good source of
Which one?
protein, a
Mhm.
source of fish oil, omega 369. Uh, and then, but I think what you can do is, but of course, Filipinos have a sweet tooth, so we prefer carbs, right? But the balance carbs with protein. Maybe when you have a sandwich, you have bread, so you can have fish as the palaman, the thing that's going to go inside your sandwich, so that
Right.
it balances out. So it comes out still a healthy one. So, but of course, since they were in the wellness, we always say that if you can change your diet, you change your digestion. So we offer our 15 Biota probiotics. Okay, it's a shameless plug of our wellness products, but that's the way to do it. All problems, we just have to try to find what we can do, because of course some people, they cannot control what they eat, but we cannot make it as a stumbling block to what we would like to achieve. So that's why we offer our wellness supplements. And as I've said initially, still the best thing is still a good mindset. And with the exercise, we always say that with the exercise, we sweat. That's one. We sweat, so it releases some of the energies that we have inside us. So it balances our well-being. So having said that, water is a very important factor. So even for people who feels isolated, drinking water, not wine. I feel that, I don't know why a lot of the young people, they like to drink wine. But well, in a pandemic, I think that's okay. But as long as after you drink then just don't intoxicate yourself, or you'll end up having trouble with some people. So yeah, or probably another shameless plug. Sorry, yeah. You can drink Gusto vegetable powder juice, because the Gusto, it's a veggie juice. So when you're a bit, when you feel down, you need energy, or you had too much to drink, then you have to rehydrate yourself. And the Gusto is very good, and it helps you more because it is better than just plain water, and there are nutrients in that drink. Yeah. So, Paul, so through your experience before, or maybe we would like to bring in Ayan already, Raymond.
Oh, yes, yes.
So we all
Yeah,
have
Paul,
Paul share.
will you
So
wrap
both
up
of
or
them
you
can
wrap up
share
later?
their personal experiences.
Okay. Okay. So, okay with the presentation, or you'll just wrap up later altogether, Paul?
Well,
Yes.
I'm done with the
Good.
presentation.
All right. All good. So let's welcome our special guest.
Hi,
Right.
I am.
Hello.
Hi, Aya.
Hello. Finally, it's already 1 o'clock. But the good thing about, well, good that I think Aya is not busy today, or all of us are not busy today.
Well,
Yeah, with the pandemic.
time management. Time management.
Okay.
I now run
So,
through this book.
okay. So, our topic today is isolation, but I know from our discussion this morning in the chat that you have a different experience with isolation. So, well, it might be a surprise for some, but for people like artists and open-minded people, of course, we it's not abnormal to have something something like that experience. So, can you tell us your personal experience with isolation? Yeah. I know this might come as a surprise because I was surprised with this morning, but after thinking about it, well, yeah, it's a good another angle, another way of looking at it and applying it, especially when we are now compelled or we are obliged to just stay at home.
Well, I think it's important to have other perspectives, because this could totally just go dark, So it's good to have perspectives like Aya, so we can be told that, hey, it's not all bad. So it's good.
So I think Aya can tell her story first.
Maybe let me. It was just a moment in my life when I realized a lot of things. The unique moment happened just so suddenly, and all of a sudden I have really important questions I needed to answer about myself, which is, who are you? What do you like and want in life? And are you happy? And are you happy at this point? Or are you on your way to happiness? And do you know the way? So, aside from, of course, the path of faith, it's not exactly a smooth one. There will always be you will always be challenged by something, and I think that's the walk of faith. That's what faith is all about. But it was during that time when I realized I was living a life that is not mine. It was a response based on a traumatic childhood experience, wherein my response was to please other people, was to always seek approval from other people. And it has gone really so deep that I needed to undo everything. So I realized uh, the, the liberty that I that I had when I was able to embrace the fact that I'm a private person, and that I'm pretty much okay with solitude. That I'm that I find peace with peace and order, like a very predictable and routine life. I don't mind not having too much spontaneity, or I don't I don't like uncalculated risks. I like order. I like sense. I like beauty. I like sophistication. I like yeah. So when I decided to honor that myself, I started curating everything I touched, and everything I read, I listened to. Uh, I limited exposure to things that could just possibly waste my time and not really give me enough learning. So yeah, of course there was a struggle because uh, in the middle of unpacking these things, of course you have to have a balance between knowing who your tribe is, or knowing who are the people, or what are who are the people, what are the things that you need in your life, you know. And so I tackled nutrition, I tackled sleep, I tackled what do you call this? I tackled just curating my life and being able to put boundaries, like who am I going to let in my life, or let stay, or who do I allow to influence my decisions, or influence my thoughts, my train of thought. So I'm very, very careful with that. Impressionable. I'm not an impressionable person anymore. Like I always seek science as um, uh, as a basis for science, and logic as a basis for how things are, or how things should be. And I trust that more than old wives' tales, or passed on. When somebody tells me, "Oh, you have to take this because it's going to help you remember things," or whatever. I don't easily trust. So whatever I see on the news, or whatever I see it's always subjected to inquiry. I always try to find the root, or at least a good, reliable source. My mind is always in overdrive, thinking whether the thing presented before me is true or not. So that kind of takes toll on me. That's why isolation for me is a sense of safe space. It's a safe space that I can distance myself from externals. Remember, I had a past wherein I took all the externals in and factored it in. But I changed my hair so many times. I dressed a certain way, talked a certain way so many times. I mean, it, it's during the time it was fun because it was like you can be anything you want. You can be
Yeah.
anyone you want, really, and you think that's freedom. But I realized, in my case, that the true freedom is a sense of discipline and self-mastery in oneself. So that really that really grounded my sense of purpose. It illuminated a path that said, "Oh, here's where you should go. This is your purpose in life." And little did I know that I was going to be a mom, and I was going to be an educator as well, educator for my for my daughter. Meaning, it was something that I never thought I would take up naturally. It wasn't something that I would. Motherhood wasn't really something in the in the cloud of my head, or in the cloud, anywhere near the vicinity of my thoughts. So even remember the time wherein because I had hung out with different kinds of people that um, when I was younger, in order to please certain groups, uh, I had to hide the fact that I had a good education or I was having a good education, that I was in a school that was top tier. I was actually ashamed of that because everybody else around me thought I was being elite. Or and there was a time wherein I did speak English, which was my comfortable language, to to speak my thoughts out, and so it was because I needed to please a certain group of people. And little did I know that had I continued doing that, then I would probably live a life that that is not probably I wouldn't be a citizen that would be of more benefit to this nation, right? I mean, imagine having to deny that you're smart, or at least informed, or have the ability to be well informed. So now I could stand on that confidently, and I could just walk away from things that will tell me otherwise, that will shame me. So through the course of it all, I was able to say I'm okay with rejection. I'm okay with not being part of every single group that I encounter. Like there's there's nothing like genuine acceptance from from people who truly care about you, or from people who really speak your language at least. Or you can meet halfway, or you can see eye to eye on at least most issues. And even if you don't, somebody like people that you can have that you can disagree that you can agree to disagree with, and still have that enormous respect for the
So,
other person.
so Aya, it was like rejection that forced you into isolation, right?
It's not only that. It's a
Uh-huh.
complex web of things. It was a complex
Mhm.
web of things wherein it's being lost in a place where you have given yourself so much to
Mhm.
a great number of people,
Mhm.
then trying to imbibe every single thing that they need you to be.
Mhm. Mm. Okay.
Trying to trying to fit in.
Uh-huh. So parang
So
Yes.
expectations of people. It's like you
yes,
Yeah,
cannot
that's right.
yeah,
Yeah,
you cannot
because
you feel
because
you
she
feel
was the popular singer songwriter with a band that really became
uh,
popular. The typical rock star thing that people, oh, you have to be like this,
mm,
to live this image. That's why
mm,
it came to a point. No, yeah, you said, if I heard it right, that you had to hide your education, your
actually,
being in
so
this.
no. It was those things had happened in my childhood. When I became
Ah,
when
your
I
childhood.
uh,
Okay,
when I when I fell into the
became
band
the
and wrote songs and stuff, the public wasn't really the problem. It was the people around me. Like,
okay.
kept on because I needed their approval, and I needed their friendship, probably I needed anchors because in my childhood I didn't have any. So so during my adulthood, it's that. So of course there's a there's also a confusing stage wherein you know um, it's not like your rock star story. I mean, but the rock star thing, the music thing is great. So maybe I just don't like the industry because, of course, when there's people, there's politics. But music itself, it's really good. Like, it's good to write
Yes.
songs. It's good to it's good to learn songs. Music is good. Music is healing, and all of that. Fans are great. The true fans are very kind. They're very polite. They are uh, they're still around, and they're very supportive. So I have no problems with that, and they're not they're so great because um, they they reach out, but I don't feel like they're invading my space. They're very kind, so I answer them. I'm open to them in that regard, and I respond to their messages. We have healthy exchanges every now and then. So it's really not bad. Uh, it's mostly people have a high opinions about themselves, or, or probably uh, some things that are out of our control.
Mhm.
So uh, I must admit, I will have to be very, very honest that I am not in total agreement with everything that's happening here and around the world. So that is sort of like an offense to the things that I believe in. So that
So parang there are contradictions
yes,
within yourself, 'di ba? Parang gano'n. That's why you feel na, okay, this is not working out, something like that, right? So, or do you
yeah,
feel that you are very different from other people?
absolutely, absolutely.
Ah,
I've been called out for thinking too deeply, for
mm,
going down the rabbit hole. I've been called out for being too passionate about certain things. Why can't I
ah,
be like a normal Filipino wherein we can just laugh at things and just take it easy and
But
uh,
then that is still perception, 'di ba? It's your personal perception. Tama?
no, it was said to me. It was
Yeah.
said it
So
was
what happened after that? How were you able to resolve the issues of your life?
um,
That's a complicated question, right?
yeah.
Not
Well,
simple. Because
well,
we're still solving issues. I'm still solving issues in my
that's
life.
right. That's
It's
right.
Ah,
hard,
okay. So it's
very
a
hard.
continuous effort to solve
It's
the
a
different
process. You're right,
issues,
Mom.
Yes,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. We are all a work in progress, and it comes in stages. As I as I've always said, one thing that I realized is that um, forgiveness. I came across the topic of forgiveness, and I've always asked, why do I need to forgive? And then I realized that people go through seasons, just pretty much like my plants. So they go through seasons of knowing and not knowing.
Mhm.
So as we unpack ourselves and as we rebuild ourselves, there are things that we need to shed and consider as mistakes, or things that we need to reacquire and say, oh, that used to be a mistake, but I feel so wrong about it now. So it's a season, people are always in a season of something. So to, to consider somebody so finished already, or to have arrived at a complete solution is I is something that's very far from very far from my thoughts, or very far from how I view life. Meaning, yes, you can
And
arrive at certain
yeah,
milestones in your life that you say, okay, I've overcome this. I've overcome this and this and this and that. But for me,
I,
it's been in stages. Like, for example, I have found peace and balance in an environment wherein I put boundaries. Number one. So I put boundaries about who I let in and whose opinion I listen to. So a balance
okay.
with that as well was to spend more quality time with the things that I like doing. I'm into plants, and now it's become a business. So spending time with the plants means um, learning a lot about their growth and their development and their make and their style and stuff. And we also sell vegetables online in our in neighboring villages.
Mhm.
Yes, I've been
Survival skills.
yeah, it's life skill. So at various times I would pick up the guitar and just come away, and then I have so I've curated my life in a way that uh, I can I have pockets of social life, with people that I trust, or at least I can navigate with. I can navigate life with. And then I also have social life with fans or followers. Then I also social life with friends, and then I have social life with 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 my family. Just here, but I'm pretty much uh, getting to that balance of a routine and a structure in life. Pretty set me in a place where it's peaceful. It's what do you call it? It's at least ordered. Like my
So,
inner life is ordered.
yeah, I have this question. Maybe it's both for Paul and Aya to answer. Would I be correct in saying that the way to deal with the problem is to set our goals? Because when it comes time for decision making, it will always have to revert back to what goals we would want in life, right? And then and another coping tool would be to learn to prioritize prioritize what we want to achieve, so that we put some focus we try to put some focus in our life, so that there's a, we would know how to deal with each, because, well, any, like for us, every day is a struggle. Every day we have a problem that would crop up, but then it's also but we have to live every day, right? So I think it's more of like, they always say you have to live in the now, you have to focus, have direction, and learn to prioritize. I don't know if that would help you in how you deal with life. So maybe Paul can make an answer
Yeah.
first. Uh,
Just like earlier, this is complicated. Like for me, I have some issues. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and if you're interested about that, you can look it up for the sake of time. But so pretty much, I struggle a lot with anxiety, some paranoia. Um, so when you're talking about goals, it's kind of complicated because it's not as simple as, like, for me, like, part of having one of the problems I have, I get scared super easy. Like, I can't control it. Like, somebody grabs me on the shoulder, I'm already doing a martial arts move on them. Like, I'm hitting their hand away or something. I'm not hitting them, but like, it's just a reaction. Like, it's really hard for me to control that. It's just the same, like, response. It's like someone scaring you and telling you, hey, don't be scared. It's not that. It doesn't work that
yeah,
way. So
it's not that easy. Yeah.
like, there's some goals that, like, for me to say I'm not going to get scared anymore, that's probably unrealistic. So like, we have to have realistic goals. Okay, so what's realistic for me? So if I have a problem going outside, well, now this is complicated because of the whole coronavirus thing. So we have to discern how can we go outside. Okay, so walking out in the street is not a very good idea. Okay, so what is the next thing we can do that's better than going out in the street? So let's go outside by our garden, or go outside in a pool area, or somewhere where we're safe from the virus and stuff. And so we make little steps. So like, for example, if somebody's scared of, like, if you're having anxiety, like, you're so pinned up with your anxiousness, you don't even want to go outside at all, then you're thinking about realistic steps, like little small steps you can do that are realistic. So like baby steps. So you think in matter of goals, like, what are some very achievable goals that I can do?
So it's still basically having goals, still having goals. Yeah.
Right, yeah, having goals, but having achievable goals, having realistic goals.
Realistic goals, as you said.
Depending on what you struggle with, what you go through. Yeah, like, I also would like to add to what Aya is saying. I very much understand her perspective, because my perspective, and I'm not saying Aya went through this, but I'm saying me, Paul Rohrer, I was bullied in school, and I went through a lot of traumatic experiences. So it's very natural that at times I just want to stay inside. I don't want to go out, because if I go outside, there's all these unknowns I don't know about. So I'm talking about, this is even before the pandemic. I go outside and I go in a group, and then I'm worried that I'm going to get mugged or something. And there's no reason why someone should mug me, but I'm so I can't help thinking about that.
Mhm.
So like that's why also you want to stay inside to keep away from danger. So that is my perspective. So
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
I see Aya nodding her head vigorously.
I truly understand. I think this is why Paul and I are friends. It's because I
Yeah.
think
Oh, we're friends. That's cool.
it's because I think I found a kindred spirit in him. Like when I first learned about his story and when he first shared with me, I felt like I was the same thing. It was just a different. I was just a different way. It was my mind. Which all this time, it's like I'm a like I have these paranoid episodes. I have this. I overthink, and I. That's what they told me. I overthink, and it's just that I think I'm wired a different way, and I think I respond to things differently. So I'm scared of that. Really, the isolation also is because of that. I'm scared of being exposed to people who might not understand it or might not get it. I might not get that I'm different. So um, that I may hold very different opinions and think differently my thought process.
Right.
And I can be very assertive. I can
I
be
can
very direct, and I can be very, yeah. So, you know,
I can agree with that too, because um, just simple reactions from people or facial expressions can
yeah,
sometimes
correct.
upset me. But it's like no reason. It's like, why am I being upset? This is so stupid. But I'm
Uh-huh.
upset. And then you have to deal with that. So like just
Yeah.
to be honest, and I'm gonna be honest because I think it's important. So like going to church for me can be a real trigger. I'm not saying church is bad, but the social experience there's a lot of people, there's a lot of people around you. There's certain expectation of how you need to be. So I feel a lot of pressure and I feel a lot of anxiousness. So that's something that I also have to deal with.
Mhm. But they always say you cannot change the person you're talking with or you're dealing with. You can only change your reaction, right? So like
It's not
let's
that
say,
easy. It's not that
hmm?
easy. It's not
Yeah,
that
we
easy.
know it's not that easy, but it takes some practice probably to be able to do that because if well because if we always feel that I just don't know if like in your experience do you feel that sometimes people have bigger problems or in worse situation than you, so
Definitely.
it puts and then you feel better because others are not you feel better because you're in a better position than the
No,
others.
no. I
No.
feel compassionate about people who are undergoing because I am undergoing a certain level of suffering. So
Uh-huh.
I don't wish anybody else that. But
Mm-mm.
what do you call this? My reactions to things I cannot control sometimes. I have to
Mhm.
admit that. And with that admission, then for some reason, 50% of the time, I'm able to make decisions that can
Mhm.
protect other people from
Mhm.
maybe my episodes or whatever. But
Mhm.
it really what really helped was being mindful over setting any goal. Was being and aware of what's happening and not
Mhm.
deny. Like because we have this culture here in the Philippines that says ugali mo. That says
Mhm.
ayusin mo yung ugali mo. And I never understood that because the only time that I understood it was that when I found out it was a wiring case, a brain wiring case, or a
Mhm.
chemical imbalance case. So that did me injustice, that whole toxic culture thing. That all the
Mhm.
while I thought I was a bad person. And I'm
Yeah.
here, one message I'm going to get out there is that if you're experiencing having to go through something, please make sure we have the tools right now and we have people right now who you can get in touch with and see have yourself diagnosed, have yourself checked first before we let anyone conclude that it's your ugale, it's your
Yeah.
That's so toxic. That kills
Yeah.
people.
True.
And
Yeah.
I'm saying this, I'm making a stand right now to say that, awareness is the key to being able to deliver yourself from one point to another, to bring yourself from a point
Yeah.
of not knowing and being so lost and being so broken to a place where you can pick yourself up and help yourself and manage those things. Because how can you heal something if you keep on sweeping it under the rug and saying,
True.
just do this,
Yeah.
just set goals, just set it. No, it's not. It's the awareness and it's the acceptance to say, oh, okay, I'm like this. So what do I do now? So what do I do? Then come the goals. Then come the goals. We address we address the root of the problem first before we address the
Right.
behavior. Because that's what we
Okay.
want to do. We want to address the behavior because it inconveniences everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
It brings inconvenience because it doesn't make anybody feel safe. So we start at the
Yeah.
root so that we can go to a point wherein everybody can feel safe.
Mm.
Right.
So, do you think, well, the way I look at it, one help would be, of course, they always say is it spiritual because, when you have faith in God, God is being God can always help us because God will not, I always say, God will not give you a problem you cannot solve. So He will not put you in a certain situation wherein you will always, like Paul, He will not put you in a situation wherein you will always be bullied, right? So
Yeah.
there is a solution. It has to stop somehow, somewhere. But my question is, would it help for you if you have a more active life in service? Because, when we do something for other people, it helps us overcome our own uh, realizations. Do you think
Yes,
that would be a good,
I can answer
yeah?
that. I can answer
Mm,
that. With our vegetable business, we don't make so
mm,
much money off of it. But why
yeah.
do we continue to do it? It's a service that we render to our neighbors that they
Mm-mm,
can be served fresh vegetables at
mm-mm,
very low prices
mm-mm,
without delivery fees. It
mm-mm,
is by the sweat of my husband's back that these
mm-mm,
people are able to do that.
mm-mm.
On another way, on another thing, where these vegetables come from, we also are able to help people have a little bit of a job, the
Mhm, mhm,
sorters, the packers, so we know that we are of service. So it's
mhm,
parcel of our lifestyle, like even with plants.
mhm,
When we sell plants, we don't leave our our clients as orphans. We
mhm,
we go through plant care with them, and
mhm,
that's service beyond the plant, beyond the selling of the plant. My service, my personal service, is a service to my daughter, raising my daughter. That is a service that I do 24/7. So
Yeah.
I think my life is loaded with service, and
So,
it's
yeah.
beyond anything personal with me anymore. I've come to a point wherein I have been of service, and I
Mhm,
still do as of this point.
mhm. So, living a life of service helps us because we feel, no matter how small, it's an achievement that we can do
Yeah.
every day. Yeah.
True.
So we are happy. So at the end of the day, it
Yeah.
will still lead us to having a happy life so that we don't feel lonely, we don't feel lonesome, we don't feel isolated. Diba? Each one of us has our different ways of coping, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
So,
think also, if
mhm,
I can add something, I think also what um, I is talking about is being wise how you're serving. It's not just
mhm,
serving.
mhm,
Like for me, like in what I do, and I talk to people, I have to make personal boundaries for myself. So I have to be
mhm,
real with myself. Like it's just okay for me. So
mhm,
like for some people, it's not wise to do what I do, especially with similar
mhm.
problems I have. So you have
Yeah.
to be real about that. But like I was talking
Mhm,
about, there's not just one way of serving. Like you don't have to like do political updates on Facebook, or you don't have to have these crazy status updates and stuff. Like there's ways you can serve without having to be out there. So like you can come up with really creative ideas like Aya. Yeah. So there's a lot of other ways.
Just like Aya was saying, she serves her daughter, you know. It's
Right.
still, you know, it's a way of coping. So I think that's a lot of topic we have tackled today about mental health.
Yeah.
So and I think we have, So with your organization, how do they get in touch with you again, Paul?
You can go on Safe and Sound FMH on Facebook, and you can private message us there. And also we're on Instagram, Safe and Sound FMH.
Safe and Sound. Oh, okay.
FMH. For mental health. Yeah, FMH.
For mental health. Okay. Safe and Sound.
It's just so long. Safe and Sound for mental health. So might as well be shorter. So yeah, there's the page right there. Safe and Sound for mental health.
Okay. It's good. So Aya is also a member of Safe and Sound. FMH.
I joined the group for group sessions. So hopefully when things are a bit better, I can serve some more. But I serve a certain way, like I connect them with people and stuff. So it's there. So in a way, yes.
And how about for your vegetables? Do you have a Facebook page you want to share? You know, a lot of people are doing that because, like in our village, like we help the farmers. A lot of people have approached us, and and of course, everybody should eat, especially vegetables. So we can help each other out. Yeah.
I'll promote my plants first. Plant
Okay.
okay.
Sorry, I flashed your other page.
They can also find that's for my music anyway. So if ever I do release some music, and that's the first page I'll be posting stuff with. So that's my daughter. So,
Oh wow.
yeah. So so it's called plantbuds.ph. Plantbuds.ph. Sorry. So it's plant buds. Very good. So you can see that.
Can you spell that again? Sorry, I cannot see the
Plants Bud PH.
Plant Bud.
Flash it on the screen. Excuse me.
Plants Bud. Bud.
Just singular plant buds. Just singular plant buds.
Okay.
Okay. Show on screen. Yeah, is that it? Plants Bud PH?
No, it's plant buds. Move the buds.
Plants bud.
Okay, sorry. My bad. Let me correct it. So
that's also a nice topic for dealing, with the stress during this pandemic. not just being able to buy the vegetables, to eat more vegetables, but people have gone into urban agriculture to survive and to get the fresh produce themselves.
And then it's good. And be allowed. So.
She's showing us her garden now. Is that right? Is that right? Plant buds. Plant buds.
Yeah,
plant buds. Correct. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Oh, so there's nice plants at the back. It's always invigorating, to look at plants. They say you should have plants inside your house.
I do.
That's right.
The jungle here. It really is refreshing. It's part of the healing, and there's nothing like having plants around, like this beauty.
Well, at least it makes the air, diba? Sabi nila, coronavirus is airborne, so it makes your air bacteria free. All the plants inside your house.
So Plant Buds PH is a website, or is it a Facebook
We have
page.
we have an IG. Well, our
Oh,
showroom
Instagram. Yeah,
IG,
Instagram.
and
Okay.
Plant Buds PH Facebook is for communicating. We load
Um,
some stuff there too.
So
okay.
So
maybe
So
Paul can take that new hobby, something.
Yeah, probably be good for me.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you. Yeah, thank you very
Okay.
much, Paul.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're
But
welcome.
before
Sharing
we say
your thoughts
goodbye, we
today.
have we
Yeah.
have several comments. Actually, it's been here. It's been waiting for you.
Okay. Mhm.
Let me see. So that we can flash them on the screen. From the start, we had Chris Taroma. Hi, Paul.
Oh,
Louis, my
hello.
brother-in-law.
Okay, hope you're still there. Ezel Nacion, watching from Iloilo. Yeah, okay. Also, we had Phil John Maria. He was
Oh,
supposed to
is
ask a
the question?
question, but I think I experienced depression before when my hypothyroid was unaddressed. Even as a person with ADHD, found out that it's correlated with it as well.
Yes. See an endocrinologist. That's doctor for hormones.
Okay, and I think Paul mentioned it. Okay, so all right, so I guess your the question was answered by Paul.
Mhm. But
Okay.
it's very interesting that before it used to be that females have problems with their thyroid. They have thyroid problems. But
Yeah,
I don't
correct.
know why uh, incidence of hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism has increased with males nowadays.
Correct. Correct.
Mm.
I have a brother-in-law who had that. And,
My wife's doing her job, making sure we got the email. So thank
yeah,
you.
right. That's why I'm flushing it
I know I
longer.
left something out. That's why I
Safe
have
and Sound
a
Ministries.
helper. My
Okay.
wife's a helper.
Oh yeah, Julie, also a very good
Partner,
singer
not
songwriter.
helper.
Partner and
Partner.
helper. So it's difficult.
Okay, so guys, okay, are we wrapping up? So I
Yeah.
think we can have some final messages from each one of them. Okay, just to wrap up. Okay, who goes first?
So,
Okay, Aya, can you go first?
okay, to everyone watching, I'd like to thank you for your time, for being with us today, and I'm sure you landed here because there's a good enough reason. And if you suspect that you are feeling a bit different, or maybe there's something beyond the normal sadness that you're feeling, or the normal unrest that you're feeling, I encourage you to seek help from you can go to Safe and Sound Ministries, uh, and yeah, so seek help, get diagnosed, and don't Google too much. I hope you're well, and stay safe.
And Paul.
Yeah. So I was thinking, I think what people need is an acknowledgement what they're going through. So I'm gonna try to acknowledge as much as I can. So acknowledge it right now if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling paranoid, if you're feeling, even if you're experiencing things that are absolutely crazy, like you're seeing things that you don't know, you're having a hard time with what reality is, really, really serious stuff, acknowledge you. Um, acknowledge depression, acknowledge trauma, um, acknowledge loneliness, I acknowledge isolation. Um, what else? Um, I acknowledge your moods. You may be experiencing that your moods could be all over the place. That can be normal. There's people right now who have actually never experienced anything in their mental health like negatively. Like they've been pretty good, and then all of a sudden this thing's hit, and they're experiencing these negative emotions for the first time. So if you're that person, I acknowledge
Okay.
you, and
Okay.
this is a normal process for you to be feeling this way. And for those who've already had mental health issues before, I acknowledge you as well. So all these things, it's understandable why you could be experiencing these things during a time like this. So just want to let you know that you're acknowledged. And if you need help, please ask for help. One of the best things that I did is that cute little kid. One of the best things that I did is I had to come to terms with what I was going through, and I asked for help. So I saw a professional. So if you need help finding a professional, me and my wife can also do that. That's also one of the big things we do is we point people to professional help. We're not professionals ourselves. We'll try to support you as best as we can. So don't be shy. I know it's really easy to be shy right now and to hold it in, but please don't, because these emotions, I'm telling you, they can really grow and they can really get worse. So just acknowledge that and go through a process of doing what you need to do to get through this. So yeah, that's what I would like to say.
All right, thank you.
Well, yeah. To add, can I add something? To add to what Aya and Coco said, I would like to say that for better mental health, we just have to feed our brains with healthy, happy thoughts.
Yes, of course. Stay positive, guys, and it's okay to be, alone now. And there are steps. Just have to, find ways. Even in our now, we're working from home, so it's okay. So, guys, thank you so much. Don't forget Safe and Sound for mental health, and for Aya De Leon, find her on Facebook. Also, Bud. Sorry, forgot again. Bud's PH. No, Plant Buds. PH. All right. And of course, BIG Business Innovations Gateway from Betty, also HTV Philippines. And you can also watch this again and again and again on demand on our Facebook page and also on our YouTube channel. Okay, so guys, thank you for hanging out with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Raymond. Yeah, see you all again.
Raymond. Good to see you, Betty and Aya.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, next week again. Hope Revolution. Yeah, guys, stay safe, everyone.
Yeah, you too. Take care.